we have with us Professor Heybatollah Nadzandimanes from Tehran, from a very important university, and we thank you so much, Professor. So, which is your university? And tell us if it was a target by the Israel and USA lately, because they target also universities, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this good program. My university is Allameh Tabataba'i University, which is one of the major universities in the field of human sciences in West Asia. My university has not Israel-American attacks, but regretfully, some universities and also some faculties have been targeted by the Zionist and American attacks.
Do you think that it is on purpose? They want to destroy the academic part of Iran, where all the scientists come from?
Yes, based on the evidence, I can say that attacking the universities and academic places is deliberately and by intention, because what I can see is that they are enemies of the science and they don't want to have to be an Iran with good universities and with science.
So tell me something. First of all, we have to say that for our audience here in Greece, that you are in Tehran. It's very important that it is a target for the Israeli and American Air Force. So which is the situation right now in the ground? I mean, how do you live? Because we have seen many photographs that you continue to live your life. Yesterday, we communicated there was a big wedding. So life is still going on under the attack by the Israelis and the Americans. The Iranians continue their lives. They don't fear. And is there any lack on anything needed for the everyday life right now in Iran? Which are the basic problems, and if life is still going on normal?
Yeah, despite the attacks by Zionist regime and the U.S. Army, but the daily life is ongoing, and that is the specification of Iranian people. Under any circumstances, they will do their life in a usual manner, and even when in some parts the attacks are doing, but the people are in the streets and in particular in the major square of the cities and express their support for their government, for their political system, and in particular they express their allegiance with the new leader. That's very important.
So this is very important because the goal of Americans and Israelis was said that it was the change of regime in Iran. So they didn't achieve that. And the very funny thing is that lately Donald Trump is saying that he's talking with a new, more reasonable regime. What does he mean? Which is that new, more reasonable regime that Donald Trump says that is talking right now?
Let me be very clear to you and your audience that Iranian people who are now living in Iran, they don't want to do any change about their political system. They may have some critics regarding the method of governance, but they like their leader, they like their political system, and they are at the same time very angry and very sensitive about any propaganda or any attack by the United States of America or Zionist regime. And the most important point is that I think the US and their allies try to change, but from the day after the war, we can see many changes, but in favor of the Iranian people. For example, the change of the legal regime over Strait of Hormuz or any other issues. So those changes will be against what the American and the Israeli regime wanted.
Yes, but tell me, who is the new reasonable regime, more reasonable regime that Donald Trump is saying that he's talking right now? Is he talking with somebody from Iran? Because the Iranian leadership says that it is not talking directly with Donald Trump. So, which is the reality? Because we hear different and controversial things from Donald Trump. From one hand, he says that he's talking with reasonable regime, the new more, and the other moments he threatens that he will obliterate the energy infrastructure and the Karg Island if the Iranians will not accept the 15-point proposal he made. Which is the reality?
The reality is that there is one supreme leader in Iran. Only he can say, is there any time for negotiation and under what conditions, and who is responsible for negotiations? And from the field, I can say to you that there is no person other the supreme leader who wants to decide about negotiations. And I think Donald Trump and the other US officials, because they saw that they didn't have any achievement to their goals, so they run some psychological warfare or operations, I think. And that's not the reality, what they are telling.
So tell me something. Donald Trump every day is threatening Iran for military on the ground operations, and that will destroy everything. Every day repeats his threats, and expecting that Iran will say, yes, okay, everything you need, the 15-point proposal, we accept it because we don't want to be destroyed. But we see Iran that it is not accepting, that it is not stepping back, that it says, come and you will be defeated. So, how can Iran have such self-confidence? Why Iran is having this position against USA? And what do you believe will happen if Americans put the boots on the ground? Will be Iran their new Vietnam?
I think Iran has the strongest support from its people, and that is the self-confidence that Iran is relying on. This is the first one. And the second, I am sure that our armed forces are struggling in a best way, and they know what is the reality. And there is no choice also for ground operations, because Iran is very different from Vietnam, from Iraq, because of the geographical location and also the people. And I think every Iranian is ready to have the American forces in Iranian land. And after that, there will be no return for any American soldier who wants to come to Iranian islands or any part of Iranian territory.
So do you think that then a military operation will be totally a disaster for the USA and they cannot destroy the Karg Island or conquer the Karg Island that they want? Because lately, Donald Trump also said that he will take the petrol, all the petrol from Iran. So, do you think that he cannot capture the Karg Island? And what if he manages to capture Karg Island? Will that be a big problem for the Iran?
I think no, that would be a big problem for the US. And you know, based on the records from the beginning of the new war, I mean, the Americans and the Israeli regime suppose that they can do their goals just within 40 hours. But they have been surprised by the resistance of Iranian government and also Iranian armed forces and even Iranian people. Because despite what the Americans thought, the Iranian people stood behind their political system, their leader. And here again, I think if Donald Trump was sure about defeating Iran, and as he is saying, surrendering Iranian people to accept his conditions, he would do what he can do. But and he didn't threat Iranian people, because when he see that everything is in favor of him or for him, he will act, not threat.
So it is very interesting that after the 12 days war of last June, everybody would expect that Iran would have run out of missiles, of drones in general. And right now, 1 month retaliates directly to all the assaults and all the operations from Israel and from USA. And also we see a strategy behind that, which is also something that it was a surprise. It means that it has a very organized plan how to retaliate. So if it's being hit to a university, then it hits back to a university in Israel. If it's been hit, an energy infrastructure, it hits back. So how can that be achieved? Can we expect also surprises if the war continues the next month or months, that Iran can for a long time fight and retaliate?
Yeah, as you correctly pointed out, after the 12 days war, Iran decided to prepare itself for a prolonged war, not for 1 month or 2 months, maybe at least for 1 year. So because of this, the Iranian armed forces prepared different plans for different scenarios. Even they prepared plans for any ground operation by the US from south, or maybe, for example, from north part of Iran by Israel through Azerbaijan. So I think Iranian armed forces have good scenarios for different scenarios, and if necessary, the world will be surprised by new initiatives from Iranian side. I'm sure about this.
So
Yes.
we will see surprises, new surprises
Yes.
from the
Yes.
Iranian side. That's why they are so
Exactly.
self-confident against the threats of Donald Trump. So is there a backstage help by Russia, by China, that we don't see, apart from the part from the information intelligence help that Iran has from Russia? Because right now the help from China is invisible, and from Russia in at this moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this because I have no access to any hidden information, just what I can see on public sources. But it is good if, for example, China and Russia, because we have some defense agreements with them, so legally they are bound to help Iranian government.
How do you find the negotiations now that started from a channel from Pakistan, and the initiative that maybe the next days we will see a meeting for the war with J.D. Vance in Islamabad, with the Turkish side, the Egyptian, and the Saudis? Do you think that it can lead to an agreement, or due to the totally different 15 points for the end of the war that Americans have and the 5 points that the Iranians have, it's totally impossible to reach an agreement, even for a ceasefire, if not the end of the war?
I think if the American government respect the will of Iranian nation and gives guarantees that there will be no any armed attack against Iran and even against the Iranian friends in the region, I mean the resistance group, maybe that will be a good start for continuing the negotiation. And the second point is that under any condition, Iran will not negotiate about the missile program or any capability or any military capability which supports the defense of Iran and Iranian homeland.
So we see right now that Lebanon is paying also a high price, Lebanon. And maybe if the front in Iran ends, Lebanon will have a big problem, but will Iran help Lebanon? Will Iran not let Lebanon alone also at the part of the negotiations? Will it be also Lebanon in the negotiations that Iran will do with the Americans and the Israelis?
Yes, I think Lebanon and Hezbollah in particular should be or must be a part of these potential agreement or negotiations, because Hezbollah, alongside with us in the war against the Zionist regime. So we also legally and morally need to stand with them and to defend them. And that is, I think, a good part and a very important part of every negotiation.
So the 5 points of the Iranian side also have one point is the compensation for all the destruction the war has caused, the attacks from the Israelis and the Americans. This seems not to be reached easily. And what will be the stance from the Iranian side for the Strait of Hormuz, that it's under threat also by the United States? They want to control also the Strait of Hormuz. Can we see this scenario? Because we saw that under the pressure for example, they had for other countries, had the result. For example, the Panama government also stepped back under the pressure of United States, and all the agreements with China for the 2 harbors have ended. So do you think that also they can push for a long time to get the control of the Strait of Hormuz, the Americans? Can that be a reality?
Yeah. Okay. Let me state here, talk about 2 points. The first one is the Strait of Hormuz, and the second, the compensation because of the damages resulting by the war. So about the Strait of Hormuz, at the moment, Iranian armed forces didn't close the Strait of Hormuz. They are doing, or they are respecting, norms of international law. And in the situation of wartime, Iran, as a state neighbor to the Strait of Hormuz, has the right to control the passage of ships. But here, Iran is controlling and is forbidden the passage of ships which belong to any hostile state, for example, which belong to the United States of America, or which belong to Zionist regime, or if the ship is passaging to one of these or these states or from these states. So here we classify the ships based on the identity of the states for destination, for origination, and also based on nationality. And that is the right international law gives us. For the other ships, they are free to passage. But after the war, I think Iran is preparing a new regime for Strait of Hormuz. And that is in particular in cooperation with Oman, another state located in neighboring of the Strait of Hormuz. At that time, there will be another regime, legal regime for this strait, which respect the navigation, the free passage of ships, but I think there will be a secure passage. I mean that Iran will control, not based on the nationality of ships or their origin or their destination, but based on the function. Yeah, because of the, for example, environment issues, Iran may control some ships. And for this, they will get some charges from the ships. And that will be another issue in my idea for the legal regime over the Strait of Hormuz.
To conclude about the war right now, just to say that Iran is prepared for a long war. That's what you are telling us. That Iran is prepared and can retaliate to boots, American boots on the ground of its soil. And that also the people of Iran right now are gathered around the government and the regime. And what about? And you could say that and the opposition, the part of opposition that was on the streets on January, is also now around the regime because they are being attacked like that from Israel and United States.
So sorry, could you please repeat the last part of your
word? I say that the people of Iran are around now the government and the regime, and even those people who were on the streets, the opposition, right now, because they are silent, they are also gathered around the government because the country is being attacked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the war, the imposed war, or this war of aggression caused the unity among Iranian people. Every night, even tonight, tomorrow, you can see in every major square, in every city of Iran, that people come together, they shake the flag of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they support Iranian supreme leader, they express their support for their armed forces, and they express their opposition to any attack by the US or Israeli regime. And they understood that there is no friendship from American side or Zionist side. Only their government is a good friend for them. And if there is some problems in the field of governance, the Iranians themselves shall solve these problems, not by the intervention of any foreigners.
So Americans wanted the Shah's Pahlavi son to take over. And we have also in Greece some, demonstrations in favor of him, with Iranians who thank the Americans who bomb Iran, which is insane, somebody would say. So who are those people who gather in the big capitals of the Western world, support Pahlavi's Shah's son, and are thanking United States for bombing right now Iran?
Yeah, I am sure that no Iranian intellectual or Iranian scholar or Iranian wise people is with the Pahlavi side. Only the people who are mercenaries of Mossad or CIA, or some who are, I'm sorry for saying this, who are mentally disordered. You can see their tweets, you can see their words. They are not sane people, I think. And there is no position for Pahlavi in Iran. Yeah. Maybe, for example, 1% or 2%.
So you think that he has no hopes?
Yeah, exactly. Because the Iranian people tried Pahlavi. They know his father, his grandfather. They know that he surrendered the country to the foreigners.
Yes.
So they never again. I remember this from the international criminal law. Never again. When after the Second World War, but here never again for Pahlavi in Iran.
Yes. Israel, and especially Israel, is targeting, apart from scientists, the leadership from the military of Iran, also the political and the leadership of the country, of the regime. So for how long can Iran, if Israel insists on that, can replace again and again the leadership in all the fields, in all the different fields needed to govern and to go on the country?
I think Iranian people, by their own will continue to resist, and they will replace as much as will be necessary for protection of their homeland.
Yes.
This is the culture of Shiite.
Yes. So there was an Iranian politician, ex-prime minister, who attacked to me that the Greeks are demonstrating for Gaza, and Greeks did not demonstrate for the slaughter. He said slaughter that were 20,000 or 12,000 people slaughtered on January in the streets of Tehran and in general in Iran. What is your answer to that? Because there were dead people, it was revealed that Mossad was inside the demonstrations, of course, but there were also people who, due to the economic crisis, who cannot survive, who are pushed, were outside, and they were not connected with Mossad also. We have to say that. And there were victims. So we want you to answer to that with a sincere answer, because it is something that everybody right now is talking about, that we should not forget that, and we should not ignore that. We have to put all the elements in our table. So
I think the numbers, or the number which is telling and is repeating by some Iranian groups or by some others out of Iran is not correct, and that is a fake news or fake number, because Iranian government proved this. And for the first time, for the purpose of clarification, Iranian government published the names, the family name, and also the ID card number of the person who have been killed. And after that, the Iranian government said, if anyone claims that there is any additional killed person, please publish his or her information. But no one was able to publish any other or any additional name or ID card number. So that means that despite what is saying in Europe or in the United States of America regarding these alleged killings, Iran is very honest about it. But I'm sorry for some European countries, and in particular for the European Union, because they are falling in the trap of faking numbers and news by some opposition groups. And that is the introduction for America, for European Union or some European countries to result and to take some decisions based on these fake numbers.
So right now you are in a war. It is a war, an existential war for Iran. So all the discussion for the reforms, the needed reforms, regime reforms in Iran is another issue that has to be, of course, discussed afterwards. But right now you are a country on war because, of course, nobody can say that the regime is perfect in Iran. Yes. And there are problems, but there are some other questions about some missiles that were heading to Cyprus, that were heading to Turkey, and one that was heading to Europe. Why? Why there are these missiles belong to whom? They are Iranian missiles. They were Israeli missiles. Can you do you know why the army of Iran right now wants to send missile to Turkey or to Cyprus Island, and if the Suda harbor, where the NATO is based, in Crete Island in Greece, can be also a target of Iran? And then we will talk about the Greek and Iranian relationships because they are a little vague right now.
Yeah, as you know, at the beginning, the United States of America and Zionist regime, in clear and gross violation of international law, and in particular the UN Charter, initiated a war which, from the viewpoint of international law, is described as an aggressive war or war of aggression. So, and this war included armed attacks, which based on Article 51 of the UN Charter creates an inherent right of self-defense for Iran to react or to retaliate. And we have also the resolution on the definition of aggression, which have been adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1974. In Article 3, it says that which are the examples of act of aggression. One of them is that allowing, the action of a state to allow another state to use its territory for committing an act of aggression against a third state. And here I want to say that if there from any American bases in the world, for example, in states neighbor to Iran, in Cyprus, in Turkey, any other, if there had been any armed attack from these bases against Iran, legally and from the viewpoint of international law, Iran had the right to attack the origination of that armed attack. And if there has been any attack from, for example, from Turkey, from NATO bases in Turkey, or from other country, Iran may have reacted. But here, the Zionist regime and sometimes American forces directed attacks against, for example, Oman or Turkey, or I don't know, any other places, but they try to attribute these attacks to Iranian armed forces. I'm sure that if
Cyprus was like that?
Yeah, exactly. If Iranian armed forces directed any attack against any territory, they have the dare to declare that we did this or we did not do this.
Okay.
Because I am sure that my army, because I am sure that my army is doing its duty in a very professional way, and in particular by taking into consideration the humanitarian considerations, in particular from the viewpoint of Islamic laws,
Great.
which respect the civilian
Very
people.
interesting what you're telling us, because you know, everybody writes, all the medias are writing that those missiles are Iranian. So right now, what is going on? In which state are the Greek-Iranian relationships? Because we saw that the government, the Ministry of Defense, decided to participate at the interception of Iranian missiles in the Gulf. And I wonder, and Greeks are wondering, whether right now, after this act, this decision from the Greek side is being perceived by the Iranians as a statement from the Greeks that they participate in the war in favor of USA and Israel, and that this fact makes Greece, Athens, a target, and maybe then the harbor of Suda, which is very close, and it's the NATO also, their base. Are we right now considered, the Greeks, as an enemy, military enemy to the Iran?
Yeah, as I told you, we have some rules in international law that, because of their special nature, they are described as jus cogens, or peremptory norms or fundamental norms of international law. And these norms or these rules create erga omnes obligations, which means that obligations towards international community as a whole. One of the most important of these jus cogens rules is the prohibition of aggression. So if an act of aggression is attacking against another state, here in our case, by the United States of America and Israeli regime against the Iranian nation, so Greece or other members of international community are under obligation to prevent the aggressor from continuing their aggression, not participate in an internationally unlawful or wrongful act. Because every assistance, every support to this act of aggression is legally creating responsibility for the other states. Here, for example, for Greece, for other states. So that is the principle of international law. And if, for example, Greece is intervening, so Iran has the right, based on Article 51 of the UN Charter, to retaliate, to react, even in an armed way.
So we are considered then a part of the war, in favor or as allies to United States and Israel. So we have made ourselves, you are telling us, a target then, a war target.
Yeah, that's some states, in violation of international law, knowingly and deliberately made themselves as a target, not target for military actions, but also for legal actions. Maybe after the war, Iran can do some legal actions against, for example, Greece or any other country which is assisting an aggressive war.
So when you're saying legal actions, what do you exactly mean? What kind of legal actions?
For example, bring some claims before the relevant international tribunals or courts, or even filing some cases for individual criminal responsibility of political and military officials, because aggressive war is not only an internationally wrongful act which creates responsibility a state, but also is an international crime, the crime of aggression, which is provided in Article B of the Rome Statute, and which creates individual criminal responsibility. So there may be some claims or some criminal cases based on universal jurisdiction and even before the International Criminal Court.
So then we can see then right now missiles coming also to against Greece from Iran after that.
I'm not sure about this, but if the Iranian armed forces accepted that they did any attack against Greece, that's acceptable. But if they didn't declare this, I am sure that Iranian armed force didn't any attack against Greece.
So do you think that it was a mistake from the Greek government to participate by intercepting the Iranian missiles?
I'm not sure about this. I cannot say anything about this, but everything is possible. But what I can say is that if Iranian armed forces attacked any missile to Greece, they will declare that Iranian armed forces did this.
Okay, so also Cyprus is a target or not?
If there will be any armed attack originating from Cyprus against the territory of Iran, yes, there will be legally a right for Iran to attack the origination in Cyprus. So I think it's better for neighboring states, for other states, to choose to respect their obligations under international law, not assist the commission of an internationally wrongful act.
Tell me something. It's very contradictory also that from one hand, the Greece intercepted missiles in the Gulf, Iranian missiles. On the other hand, the foreign minister of Greece asked Iran to let the Greek ships pass from the Hormuz Strait. So this question and this request means that the Greek ships cannot pass. They are those who are being punished for the war, and along with the Israeli and the American ships cannot pass the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes, I think if there is any support, any assistance from the side of Greece in favor of the American forces or Zionist regime, Iran has the right to retaliate, to react. It's better for Greece or for any other country like this not to allow their territory to be used for commission an act of aggression against Iran.
Yes, but the Strait of Hormuz are closed for the Greek ships. That's why
yes,
the
yes,
minister, it is.
Yes, because based on international law, Greece,
Okay.
state of Greece will be classified as a hostile state.
Okay, so tell me something else now about the Arab countries. We saw them accusing only Iran at their last meeting, the foreign ministers of the Arab world, of the CGG, the countries of the Arab countries. So they didn't say nothing for Israel and USA that began this war. So they accused only Iran. That means that any bridges, any connection between the countries and Iran are totally totally collapsed.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the compensation for damage caused by war, and I think it's the time to talk about it. As I told you, we have two kinds of obligations for states here. One for the United States of America, and the second, and also for Zionist regime, not to resort to war in violation of international law. And second, for the neighboring states, or for the states in their territory there are some American bases. Under international law, they are under obligation not to allow that their territories to be used for the commission of an act of aggression. The neighboring states, in particular the Arab states, violated their obligation knowingly and deliberately. They participated in an aggressive war. So they have no right to blame Iran. They have to blame themselves because they knowingly and deliberately intervened or participated in this aggressive war. And the second, they have to ask to American people, to American armed forces, not to use their land as a base for attacks against Iran. And I think every compensation needs to be done by Arab states and also by United States of America and by Zionist regime. And Iran will claim this from this moment until it will get full compensation. And final point to my Arab neighbors. I ask them to shake hand with Iran as a brother in Islam, instead of, I'm sorry to say this, as Trump said, instead of kissing the ass of foreigners. It's very shameful for them.
Tell me something. So we don't expect any crucial, any huge developments after the meeting in Islamabad. We don't hope to end the war after this, the meeting there that is being expected the forthcoming days, and that the Iranian people are ready for a long war. Also, the Iranian people are ready for this war.
Yes, Iranian people are ready for a prolonged war, and they go to the armed forces and they want to enlist to be sent to, for example, islands or to the borders to protect their country. And another issue is that when the United States of America is threatening us and is saying that it is preparing to send some extra armed forces or ground forces, so we cannot say that we want to negotiate.
Yes, but we know that Americans, when they are negotiating, they are on the other hand attacking. So maybe they will negotiate in Islamabad and they will at the same time put their boots on Iran. This is very possible. And one thing we didn't talk about is the nuclear program of Iran. We know that there were negotiations about that. There was a program. Trump stepped out from that. So, which is the will right now, the Iranian will about the nuclear program? There are analysts who say that now Iranians are being forced to create the nuclear weapon, and they will create it right now. Before the beginning of the war, there was not such a danger, but now there is. Is there?
From the beginning, there was no intention, no tendency by Iran to make nuclear bomb or nuclear weapon. It has been formally expressed by our government as our policy, and it has been even expressed in a fatwa, a religious ruling by our late supreme leader. So there was no intention for Iran to create nuclear weapons. But after that, I think there is no changes, regretfully, from the viewpoint of myself. But I myself believe that first, Iran needs to withdraw from NPT, and it will back when Israeli regime join the NPT. If there is no joining by Israeli regime, there is no reason for Iran to be a party to the NPT, because NPT didn't protect Iranian peaceful nuclear sites from the Americans and Zionist attacks. And it didn't do anything for Iranian people. And another issue is that if I was in a position to Iran to take a decision, I would prefer to change the doctrine in the field of nuclear energy. Because as you said, there is an existential threat and attack against us.
So you believe that after this war, Iran will not be defeated and this will be its win, because right now it is an existential war for Iran. So confronting USA, one of the biggest military power of the world. So if Iran will not be defeated, it will be a win for Iran. This is the goal right now for Iran.
Yes, I am sure that there will be no defeat for Iran, although we may have some casualties, but our armed forces will win because the other sides couldn't achieve their proclaimed goals.
So there is a distinction between USA and Israel, because we're talking for them as if they share the same goals. They don't share the same goals. United States are thinking of withdrawing from the war sometimes. Israel wants to continue the war. Do you think that if USA withdraws, Israel will continue alone, can continue alone the war, having at the same time opened the front of Lebanon and with the Houthis in the war now?
I think if the US decides to end the war, Israel by itself does not continue. Because at the moment, there are voices against the war in Israel itself. As I read from Haaretz, I think yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday, there is, I think, about 50% which now supports the war by Israeli people. Although from the beginning, it was about
80%. Yes. So do
it
you
was
think
about 80%.
Yes. So do you think then that even Israel will stop the war, the front will close the front in Iran if the Americans withdraw?
Sorry, could you please repeat again?
Do you think that Israel will continue or will stop the war if the United States will finally withdraw, which is, of course, a scenario that it is not very possible. Right now, they are one step before putting their boots on Iran, the Americans. But I say if.
Yeah, I think if the US stops or withdraw from the war, Israel also will stop.
So let's hope the war will stop, that you will celebrate for the Nowruz, for the new year in Iran without this war, this destructive war. And I hope that we will be here again to discuss the peace that will have come to Iran and to the region.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your solidarity, for talking about Iran and the Iranian people. And I am sure that Greek people are of rich culture and rich history, and they understand the situation of Iran. And what we all together need is justice, is human dignity, is peace and security.
We thank you so much, Professor Nadzandimanés, and we will be here to discuss when peace will arrive the next days for Iran. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.